Hey, what up, guys? Welcome back to another amazing episode of Game Changers. Real excited to be here again with you guys. It's your host, Addy E, as always. And today I'm really excited for this episode because, as you could probably tell by my background and my shirt, comic books and superheroes are, a really big part of my life and I'm a huge fan of them. And with the Avengers being released this past weekend on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, I figured it's the best time to look back and reminisce on our favorite comic book based video games. And I got not one, but two special guests here today to help me dissect some of this comic book knowledge for you guys. We got our boy Yaron Betan. You know him. He's the host of the Heroes Manufactured Live. And for the first time ever in Game Changers history, we got a wicked crossover episode. The host of Comics Vault, Jowy P, is here today to talk to us about her favorite comic book episodes, comic book video games as well. And without further ado, you know them, Yaron and Jowy. Welcome to Game Changers.
Hey, thanks, Addy. Thanks for the introduction.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, first time, man.
Yeah, glad to have you guys on, man. I know you guys, both of you especially, are really knowledgeable on the comic book front of things. So I'm really excited to come hear your knowledge and dissect some cool video game knowledge for the audience.
Yeah, man, let's do this.
Yeah, and just right. To say, like I want to hear more from Jowy today because like I'd love to see what she has to say just about comics, games. I mean, you're a big comic person, but just seeing you in the gaming world is definitely like it's an awesome thing to have you on board with us for this today. So
it's new. It's gonna be really funny when my brother sees this episode because he's the gamer of the family, and he's gonna be like, "What kind of credibility and the audacity of you being in a gaming show?" So it's gonna be an interesting family dinner when he sees this episode. But I know we're gonna talk about some really cool things, and I actually did play a little bit of video games, so I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. All right. Well, without much more time being wasted, let's get right into it. And I'm going to kick it off with my top three favorite comic book video games. The first one being one that I played, back in elementary school, I think was the first time I played it. And that's Ultimate Spider-Man on PS2. And man, I remember this game. I don't know if you guys have played it before, but I think I actually rented this from like a Rogers or something back when Rogers was renting video games.
Oh my God, what a throwback.
Yeah, I know, right? And the first thing that just immediately won me over with this game was the aesthetic. And like, if you can look at these pictures right here, it just looks like you're literally taking the pages from a comic book and throwing it up on the screen. And to be able to play that, especially when I was a kid, was just something that I've been, waiting for, something that I've been just really excited to do. And Ultimate Spider-Man fulfilled all my fantasies, all my amazing fantasies.
All your amazing fantasies.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like the cel-shaded look, that like hand-drawn art style that it had, especially being based off of the Ultimate Spider-Man line of comics. If you guys are familiar with that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. Have you read it as one of the top like Spider-Man arcs?
One of my favorite artists, Mark Bagley. I mean, he started that whole series, right? Like I got to interview him when we were down at Florida Comic-Con. It's part of that episode. He's a great guy and just he stylized it. And you know what I mean? Even the video game, they were able to stylize it. So I mean, it's pretty awesome that I mean, that is I get why you like that game, man. I definitely get it.
It's come to life. It's kind of like I've always liked Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the Ultimate Spider-Man run because my favorite kind of Peter Parker, and anybody who knows me in the comic book industry knows that I love poor young high school student Peter Parker. And the Ultimate Spider-Man is probably one of my favorite longer runs of Spider-Man. So it was great, man. And that video game, by the way, I actually do remember it in my house. And the cool thing about it was that you're right. It looks actually like the comic book art as well.
You know what? It looks like the comic book, but also I remember it looks a little bit like they had an animated show as well.
They did. Oh my God! Fun fact: I had that on my PSP UMD. That was a wicked show, man.
It's kind of like a clash between the comic book and the animated show. So it's got the best of both worlds, I find. So I mean, I've always loved that game. I mean, Kudos to you for that one. Not my personal favorite. I'll get to that later. I know,
yeah,
Joey, you got your list as well, but I mean,
yeah.
Fun fact.
There's definitely lights up there.
Yeah, fun fact. It was actually the plot of the story of the game was written by Brian Michael Bendis. If I'm not mistaken, but that's the same writer who did the comic books line, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was really cool that they got him to work like that closely together. And there's like yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of cool aspects to the game. Like, there's a host of characters that are just shoved into the game, which are really cool. Not even just villains, but like heroes as well. You get to see like Human Torch, Tony Stark, Nick Fury, a lot of cool guys, and I'm sure they were probably characters in the comic run as well. And for the first time, actually, to this extent, you got to play as the villain in the game, which a big portion of the game was playing as Venom, which won me over because jumping into the city and, getting to some of his missions, he had his own specific missions were like destroying the city in a certain amount of time or chasing down somebody. And it was just really cool to like step into the shoes of Venom and really get to wreak havoc as that character. It was something that was not really done to this level before, and it was really cool. And my favorite thing about being Venom was there was a bar fight with Wolverine in the game that you get to play through. I know, right? It's so cool. It's such a cool game. And if you guys haven't checked it out, those of you watching, highly recommend you hunt this one down. Definitely belongs in the collection.
Very cool.
So what's
the second one over there?
What's your second favorite game there, Addy?
Second, I got a big one, second on deck. My next two, to be honest, are more series instead of one individual, just because I feel like the series as a whole is what makes the game. I'm gonna go with Ultimate Alliance. Now, seeing this game as a kid, I was like, again, this was like still elementary school. These games were coming out, but the thing is with Ultimate Alliance, it had 2 more installments that came out as I was growing up too. So I kind of really did grow up with the game, with the 3rd installment actually only coming out in like last year, 2019, which was really cool. And a big like part of the game that really I appreciated and which really was miles ahead of its time was the character selection for this game. Like even in Ultimate Alliance 1, like here's a view of the character select in each series. The top left there is Ultimate Alliance 1. And imagine on PS2 back in like 06 or something like that, looking at this giant roster of Marvel characters. You got people like Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Silver Surfer, Nightcrawler, Fantastic Four. You got a bunch of crazy different people in here, all at your disposal to use. And on top of that, the game takes you to so many different places that if you're a fan of the storylines, the books, the comics, you'll recognize them. Like you get to go to Atlantis, and there's a story arc with Namor. You get to go to the Valley of Spirits and fight Mandarin. There's like a whole like circus themed episode with Doombots and stuff, and like Doctor Doom's kind of the overarching villain. And there's just so many plots to the story in the first one. The second one was a lot of fun as well. It actually follows Civil War, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Civil War arc, probably one of the biggest arcs out there in the Marvel universe. And this one, what I appreciated is it followed the comics more than the cinematic. Well, the cinematic universe didn't really exist to what it did, but this stayed true to more of the comics because the cinematic universe didn't really get the chance to, bring in a lot of the characters that were big players in the arc.
So not even half of it, man.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So to see like the comic book kind of come to life on the screen was so cool. You got like Black Panther in there and Deadpool and like a Juggernaut and stuff like that. Colossus, a lot of cool characters. And a great thing about the game is that it actually gives you bonuses for pairing up because you can have 4 people at once. So it gives you bonuses for pairing up like X-Force, for example, or Fantastic Four or Avengers. You get certain bonuses for pairing them up, which I found was a really cool aspect as well.
One thing for me personally, I loved about the game, and I because I played that game a lot. I still play Ultimate Alliance 2 often. And they feel cinematic in their intros too. I mean, they have a cinematic feel, and even prior to some of the Avengers movies that came out, I remember seeing this. I'm like, wow, that's how the Avenger movie should feel. So I mean, to me, they have that cinematic, animatic in the beginning of the game, which was awesome. I love the gameplay personally. I'm not a big fan of the top down, but this game was awesome at it because they allowed you to be all the characters you want to be. The moves are great, the powers are great, the super moves they had were awesome. So I mean, to me, that was just it was amazing. Ultimate Alliance. I mean, that was just they did it well. You know what I mean? So
for sure, and I think that's actually a big part of it as well. It's a one thing to have all these cool characters for you to play as, but the fact that they play differently and have their own abilities and their own super moves and stuff like that, and they're noticeably different. Like Deadpool can teleport and stuff like that. Spider-Man can web swing. Iron Man can fly. So they have all these different abilities just as they do in the comics. So and it's really good that they utilize that. It just wasn't just a different skin for the same model. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was, you know what, the only thing for me about that game that I wasn't really a huge fan of was that it was like the eagle eye point of view.
Yeah.
And I was totally not used to that. And I was like, I just want to see what I'm doing as I'm doing it, you know, and I want to see it like in front of me. And I think that's
more like a third person or first person.
Yeah, I know. That was the toughest part about the game. But like in overall, I was kind of like, where can you find a game really other than maybe Marvel versus Capcom or something like that, where you had that much people, you know, like all the Sony Marvels were there, all the Fox Marvels were there, all the Disney Marvels were there. It was a good pull. It was really good.
Well, definitely one level I personally loved in that game. I think it was the first one too. There was a level where they were kind of like in a circus or something like that, and
like
ping pong type of thing going on there. I was like,
oh my god, yeah,
that was great. You know, especially Captain America with the shield. You're ping ponging that thing like all over. It was awesome. Like, that's all I remember.
Oh man, yeah. And the thing about that top-down view is, I know what you guys mean. Like, and the thing is about that time in gaming, the superhero games weren't really as big as they were now with like the Spider-Mans and Avengers that we're going to talk about soon. And the like kind of top-down beat 'em up style was just like the formula to go with, and all the movie-based games that honestly that I also love. Like there's an Incredible Hulk one. A bunch of different, like all the Spider-Man movie games, they all had that similar like top-down view, and I guess Ultimate Alliance just carried the torch with that formula, but added their own cool things about it. And the third one actually surprisingly still stuck with that formula, even though it came out last year, and it still did pretty well. I have more of an emotional connection to the first two, just because I played more and I was invested more in those. The third one had to do with the Infinity Stones, and don't get me wrong, the Infinity Gauntlet is like my favorite probably Marvel arc. But after seeing it done in like the cinematic universe for so long, and then them coming out with the game, I was like, I kind of want something different. I want something fresh, which is, I'm happy, again, hint, hint, Avengers is that, which we're going to talk about again soon. But yeah, overall, Ultimate Alliance, each game has their own special good thing about it, and I would recommend any of them to you guys. It's not like the third one sucks and the first two are better. They're all great in their own way.
For sure.
Awesome. And so your last one, man?
What's your
last one, man? Top tier. We got top tier, but they all hold a special place in my heart. But I would say the superhero game that has had the most impact on the superhero game like culture, and even I would say like the whole way that superhero games are viewed nowadays is the Batman Arkham series. And there's 4 games. There's Batman Arkham Asylum, City, and then Arkham Knight, and then Arkham Origins was a prequel that came out in the midst of the trilogy. And when Arkham Asylum burst out onto the scenes, immediately it was the superhero game. This was now the saving grace for all the Superman Returns video games that we've had before. This was the one that changed it all. That really grandfathered in Spider-Man and even the Avengers game. Now this was it. It was just, you really got to truly feel like Batman. It was that dark, gritty tone. The combat was crisp and violent. Even for a teen-rated game, you still get the bones breaking and slamming people on the floor and stuff. Classic Batman style. And I loved that as the series developed, they kept opening it up and adding new things. The first one took place in Arkham Asylum, of course, being titled Batman Arkham Asylum. It was the classic Joker springs a trap, traps Batman in the Arkham Asylum, and then his foes are all loose. So you got Clayface, Mr. Freeze, Killer Croc, just name a few they're up against. And the combat really revolutionized combat for not only future superhero games, but I think a lot of even weapon-based combat games in general. That press Y to counter, and then to keep thing to jump over the shields and use a whole host of different gadgets and weapons. Batman really was the first one to truly master that, and I feel like it definitely deserves to be regarded as so. Yeah. And The second one was Arkham City. It took place in like a super prison that was like a cityscape. I don't know if that's actually something from the comics. If you guys would know, was that something that was original to the game, or did they have that before? It was Arkham City, so it was pretty much just like this closed off city that criminals just ran free in, and they basically pushed them because Asylum was getting too small for the amount of criminals. They just made a Arkham City. Like they planned to do that. Was that something from the comics or?
No. It was something you know what? I think that even happened in the Gotham show.
Yeah, it happened in the animated series, but I mean, it didn't really make light of it. I think the game, from what I recall, highlighted it the most. I mean, there's the whole Gotham, Gotham PD storyline. There's Gotham Central, which is it's its own thing, So there's all that. Arkham does have its own, like, I mean, to me, I always perceived Arkham as kind of like an island on its own, right? Just like in the game. I mean, it's its own kind of area, and I think they did well to separate that from the rest of the game. It's like it's like Brooklyn and Manhattan, right? It's its own,
absolutely.
Queens, right? So that's how I felt they did it in the game, and I mean, I feel like they portrayed it. Gotham is like a New York City, right? So it's like the good, the bad, the ugly. It's everything. And I feel like they did it well personally there. I loved. I personally loved Arkham City the most. I thought that was my favorite game. I did love the first Arkham Asylum game because I thought that what was awesome about that game was the storyline between the Joker and the Batman. It was kind of it was dark, man. It was dark, and it was the first time you saw in a while, at least, a game that was that dark and that had grit to it as a story, not just as like blood and guts. I remember blood and guts in Mortal Kombat back in the day, but I mean this had real grit as a storyline. So I mean, I think the story was great, and it allowed to expand into that bigger universe, into Arkham Knight, all that. So I mean, great game, definitely in my top 10s in terms of the games that I love. So I mean, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure. I just love. I think I agree with you there. And City being my favorite, there's just something, man. Just like the emotional beats in the story just hit so hard, and there's something about it. Like you guys definitely got to play it to the end. It's worth it. A lot of people kind of hated on Origins, which kind of like I didn't. I loved Origins. I don't know. I guess I didn't
like Origins. To me, Origins was like a 1.5 version of Arkham City. To me,
that's brutal.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I see what you mean. It does kind of feel like a bit of a DLC because I think the reason they got a lot of hate was that it didn't really add anything new. It was just the same thing again, but with a different story. This time you're on Blackgate Penitentiary, which was cool, and Black Mask is the main villain, and your fight. He puts a hit out on Batman. And so Batman's pretty much being hunted. I think it's like $10 million or 100, some ridiculous number. So like Deathstroke and like Copperhead and a Deadshot. All these guys are trying to hunt Batman down to get that bounty. I thought it was a cool way to keep it fresh and change it up. But a lot of people didn't really appreciate that one.
Blackgate was a big comic book that they had back in the 90s. I mean, it was a big series. Joey, did you ever follow that one at all? Or
I didn't. See, when it was the 90s, I fell off on current comics of the 90s because I was in elementary school still.
No, it's all good. I mean, I was too. So I mean, but it was one of those that I kind of picked. It wasn't a huge series, but it was enough that people, like, if you remember the books from back then, I know because I still have, I think, some of the comics in my own collection from back then. Blackgate was definitely a big mention of the series from the 90s. I think they even had some stuff in the early 2000s, so it wasn't like huge, but it was definitely mentionable, and in that sense. I actually have to say though that like my favorite out of my next favorite was Arkham Knight. I think it was a great thing, a great game, and what I loved about it specifically was the fact that you can customize your costumes. I think that was an amazing new thing that games didn't have. So
Arkham Knight was wicked, man. Just being able to finally explore Gotham. Now you're put into the city in this one, and you're behind the wheel of the Batmobile, which was so cool. You would like drive around, drift around, shoot missiles at people and stuff like that. Rubber bullets.
Is it like Batman, like Grand Theft Auto style?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, it is pretty much like it's just the villains are running amok in the city. There's this whole plan, I think, to gas the city or something like that. and
But they still
it was
kept it
just
to Arkham City too, right? It still had that Arkham City feel to it, I feel.
yeah, just like a bigger expansion, and then you got the added Batmobile, so there was something new, and yeah, Arkham Knight is a really great game, and even that like some of the side quests, like the what's the guy with the pig mask? Do you guys know who I'm talking about? I don't know if he's in the comics, but he's like a butcher or killer or something, and he wears like this pig mask. Yeah, but that was a really
we're
cool.
Horrible, man. We're not gonna remember that one.
Yeah, I know, it was such a cool storyline. But last thing about Arkham is that actually, I don't know if you guys heard, but DC did their like fandom, I think event it's called, where they were showing off a bunch of movies, games, and stuff like that. And they announced, I think a couple of new Batman games. They're doing Gotham Knights, which looks pretty cool. Yeah, oh man, that looks so good. You got like Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, so you get to play as all those guys. The clip they showed was like of Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Mr. Freeze was like trying to freeze the city or something. Gameplay looks like your favorite Batman gameplay. Super excited for that. But what I'm even more excited for is I believe they're doing the Court of the Owls line from the New 52, which I love New 52 Batman. Like in the beginning, I loved it. Yeah, especially like up at the like death of the family and all that stuff was so great. And to see them doing Court of the Owls, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what they bring to the table on that. What do you guys?
Can't wait as well. I can't wait.
Yeah,
like I saw it from like DC Fandom, and that trailer was honestly like, is this real? Like how much of this is actually going to look like in the game? And but you know what? Like even seeing the new Avengers game that we're going to talk about, it's possible. You know, it's possible for a game to look that great and that integrated now.
Yeah.
Definitely can't wait on that. But
one thing I was going to mention just about like Batman, there's so many other games out there too. I mean, people don't realize, but like even the VR, there's a great VR game out there. That's that's the Batman VR game. The other thing was I tried, I did a VR game where it was about the Justice League. It was a Justice League VR game. They had this on Oculus, the Oculus goggles, and you literally got to be Batman in his in the Batcave, checking out all the superheroes that you're working with. You can choose from the Batcave. It felt so real. I literally felt like I was Batman, man. And then once you're in the Batmobile, like it was just amazing. So even that Justice League, even like that game was incredible. And the fact that they like Batman's always just seems to be the coolest one to play in all games. So I mean, even in some other games that we're going to mention shortly, but I mean, there's so many great games out there, right? When it comes to Batman, so definitely check them out.
Yeah, for sure. Especially more great superhero games in general, which that brings a close to my top three. Joey, I'm really excited to hear your top three. You know, as a comic book girl and a fan of the video games, excited to see what you have. So let's hear it. What are some of your favorite comic book video games?
So again, I mean, this is just as I do with Comics Vaults. I can never say like that was my number one favorite and number two and number three. So I'm just going to spit it out. But the one thing that I'm going to talk about is a very near and dear, and it's going to age me as hell when I notice it, when I mention it, and it's called Turtles in Time. Now, I'm an arcade girl. I love pinball. I love all that kind of arcade stuff, but Turtles in Time was like a ground and pound game. And the reason why I like Turtles in Time is because one, turtles, two, it's ground and pound. And the kind of video games that I used to love in the arcade was like Streets of Rage. I don't know if you know that game at all. Do you remember like Streets of Rage?
Streets of Rage 2 is like probably my classic. I mean, I got a copy right here of it. So
yeah, Streets of Rage 2, like something along the lines of like Double Dragon. I'm so into that stuff. And then finally I see this game with my favorite turtles in it. Of course I'm going to play it.
Yeah. You know? I used to love the turtles on the old Game Boy. Like that was a great back.
Oh damn.
You know what though? Because of this game, because of playing like that arcade style game, I know I'm gonna sound like such a baby again, but I loved it when it was in the Nintendo DS system. So the DSi and the DS Lite.
I didn't get the DS as much as you. See, I feel a little older now because I have the DS for my kids. I found
for your kids, bro.
Here, I'm gonna give it to you guys. Yeah, they still play with the. I had a 3DS, but I mean, that was just I had that short term. I ended up trading it in at an EB Games in the US. So actually, it was GameStop there, but.
No, I know, but honestly, like I love these kinds of games because you literally turn off real life.
Oh yeah.
And it's great for honestly just turning away from reality, but it's also just like if you need to like really just beat someone up, and obviously that's not good in
Plus
real
it's
life.
2D games. Those are the best. I mean, 2D games had a certain life to them that I still even like I love third person, first persons, but 2D games just they're classic, right? They're
So that's how I remember video games, and that's why I mentioned it first. And I remember when Addie and I were first talking about producing this episode, I was like, I gotta mention the Turtles. I gotta mention them, and I gotta mention that I followed basically the ground and pound games from because of this game. You know, it was just that good to me. But
nice, yeah.
playing,
Turtles
playing
is.
playing it in the gamepad and playing it on like a controller, if you get like an emulator or something, it does not feel the same. You gotta play it on a gamepad.
Yeah, you can. Emulators don't work. Emulators don't work.
Turtles is such a good pick, and I didn't get to experience it in the arcade, but I had the Super Nintendo version of it, and that Shredder level used to piss me off. You had to like take the guys and throw them at the screen. I couldn't figure it out as a kid. I don't know why. But Donatello was always my dude, man. Who would you guys pick in that game?
He's my favorite too.
Donnie? Okay.
For me personally, it was Michelangelo every time. I love the nunchucks. I loved his comedy, and to me, like from the show to everything, Michelangelo is my guy. He still is my guy, but it's awesome.
He's the funny one. He's a cool dude, fun party guy. So
exactly.
So I guess that would be like my first throwback kind of thing.
Nice.
What really got me into video games when I was in college, and that's a bad time to get into video games, guys, because that means that takes off part of your school. But at this point I was also reading comics, but I was also kind of like, I need a break. You know,
so you were a bad girl, right? You just took breaks all the time.
Sorry?
I'm saying you were a bad girl. You just took breaks all the time in college.
Yeah, I did. I was like, no, because you know what? I get burnt out. As much as I love comics, sometimes when I'm just like, there's too much of something, and that's me with anything. Like I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do the same thing all the time. You know. But the second thing that I wanted to mention, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but this game led into my favorite game, which was it was made by NetherRealms, and it was Mortal Kombat versus the DC universe.
Oh my god, I didn't expect you to say that. Yeah.
No, and I'm mentioning it to lead into this one thing, which I think you know what I'm talking about, but when they just like sprinkled that game in, I was kind of like, hold on a moment. You tell me that Sub-Zero and the Flash could fight in Themyscira? What is going on in here? So I was
man. That honestly, I'm so happy you mentioned that. That game is a big part of like my tween years, man. Oh my god, that's so fun. And then seeing Dark Khan, the hybrid they made of Shao Kahn and Darkseid. It was even though like it got a lot of hate, it wasn't the best game ever, but it was just so cool. Like it was like a fan service. I feel like it was just something that was so cool.
It was a fan service, but it led to a much bigger project because now the fans of like the Mortal Kombat worlds and like the NetherRealm and like, you know, the DC world, it kind of like coming together and having like that kind of crossover, which I think is like, this game has got to be a big reason as to why crossovers are even happening in video games as successfully as they are, right? And it's the same thing with comics as well, is when Injustice came out.
Yeah.
You know, like Injustice is such a pivotal part of like fighting games now because of look at that roster. Just like if you leave that on for just a little bit more, Yaron, like the amount of people that you grew up with, that you grew up watching is in that picture, and you could play every single one of them.
For sure. And even part 2 is a great game. Like
And I think that the story was really great in both of them, and here in Injustice and in Gods Among Us as well.
Yeah. See, for me, my god, story is never a big thing in video games. It's I don't know. It's just me personally. Although there are some games that do it really well. So to me, like because I'm a cinematic guy, I came from a film background. It doesn't capture me in the first few seconds, especially in a video game.
You're done.
I lose interest. I'm done. So to me, I mean, Injustice did do it well. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I've seen better out there personally. Like I actually thought the Ultimate Alliance had a much better storyline. Personally.
Yeah. But, I feel like it's important to kind of fight for injustice here. For a fighting game, it really did a good job of the story, because fighting games are usually the like, oh, jump in and like beat each other up for a bit. But this one really did a good job of having that like story, like the comic book storyline. And then I don't know which came first. Did the game spawn the comic book series, or was the comic book series first?
So the comic series came after.
Yeah,
that's for sure. That didn't come.
That's what I thought.
It was, but you know what? It was it didn't take very long, and I actually did read the Injustice comics, and I didn't want to, but I did.
They were good though. They were.
But I feel
great. Like the comics were better than the
game
story. Exactly.
Yeah. But it was a great accompaniment to it. And I think that hopefully what this game spawned into was for kids to even download it in Comixology. It's a very quick comic. A comic book is usually 34 pages, and Injustice was not like that. If you could kind of read something, like speed read something because you wanted to finish a series about the Justice League, this is probably going to be the comic to do that.
And they have a graphic novel version of it, I think.
Yeah, there is now. So it's gone into its volumes. It's completed. Instead of doing technically volumes, they do it year 1, year 2, year 3. But I think that if you really did like the game, give the comic book a chance if you've never even read any of the comics, or if you're not a comic person. But one, it's a very quick read. Second, it's meatier. The story is meatier, but it's still like the Regency. That's still the storyline of the comic book, but it translates so well, and you won't be disappointed. But honestly, I loved the gameplay. I loved the interaction in the game. I love that you could throw someone on a computer, and that computer breaks and you can go through walls beating people up. So the combos look great as well, even, like the R1 L1 move. It was great, man. Like every single
like the special moves and stuff, like, or they have Flash has that one where he like drags you through time and stuff like that. And Doomsday in the first one, he like beats you through the planet.
One of my favorite ones were the Aquaman one, because he literally feeds you to the sharks. It's insane, So Injustice will always have a place in my heart, and I will always recommend it to people that just, they're sick and tired of like regular fighting games. I'm like, well, why not fight with gods? Let's see how that goes, The
one thing I love about Injustice is that, and it's just like every other Street Fighter type game I love out there. Sometimes you just don't want to be able to go through a maze and figure things out. Sometimes you just want to beat the hell out of someone.
That's right.
And just whether you like, and most of the time you're going to win because you're just beating the crap out of them. Mm-hmm. To me, it's just one of those games you just feel like you can finish it in a few minutes, or you can take your time on it. You don't have to worry. Whatever happens, happens. And it's like, I can still feel satisfied after I pass the level because it feels like I passed the full game. So I mean, that's just how I feel. So
another thing about Injustice, and if you're gonna go back and get like the other crappy game, sure, we'll call it that, which is like the DC Universe versus Mortal Kombat, the moves are actually translatable. So the combos are really, really easy, by the way. So if you had a cheat sheet with you and it was on your phone, I'm not saying that that's what I do, but that's totally what I do. But it's super easy. It translates all throughout the whole thing.
So. Yeah, NetherRealm got that specific style. They really got a good job on that like formula down for the fighting games, making it easy to pick up on the next one. But it's one of those that are definitely easy to pick up and play, but tough to master, because I think I'm sick at it, and I go online, I get whooped, and then I get cheesed, and then I take a break, go back, go online, and get whooped. It's a whole cycle. But definitely it's a lot of fun. It keeps me going back.
Here's my solution. I don't play online.
True. Yeah, but yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Third one there, Joey.
Sorry?
You have a third game?
I do have a third game. My third game is a little bit of a baby game, but I'm so not ashamed of it because I love it. It's a Lego Batman 2.
Love baby.
Hey.
It's my game, man. It's like it was my lunchtime game, and I loved honestly, out of the Lego stuff, one, I've played probably like 80% of those games. But Lego Batman 2, it's because of the integration of all the other characters that came and visited Gotham Central. And I loved the adventures in it. I loved how simple it was. Again, I'm not like a huge gamer, but because of the fact that one, I liked all the Lego stuff because of how it transcends to one another. Like there was like Batman 2. There was eventually there was a DC villains one that was really cute. But I got suckered into it, one, because it's cute. But two, then I got hooked. And then I was like, oh no, why did I play this Harry Potter game? And then I'm there for 5 hours. So it was not good for me in college, but it was a really good gameplay. And then it just, the Lego Batman movie came out. And what a great accompaniment to that as well. So it just kind of hopped over to all the things that I liked about Lego.
Yeah, honestly, I totally agree with you. The Lego superhero games and Batman games are honestly really good. Super fun to play. Great couch co-op. Always recommend those when people are looking for co-op. And the thing is, it does kind of get written off as like, oh, that's a kid's game or whatever. But like, they're genuinely funny. Like, they're well written. The ones when they added talking into them, like I was seriously laughing at some of the points in the game. Like, it's really interesting to see how they take the formula that seems kind of childish, but they really make it into like a fleshed out game that anybody can enjoy playing no matter your age.
Absolutely. And you know what? They even came out with like the Lego animations as well in DC. And I love the animation stuff, like I will watch it as dark as like Justice League Dark Apocalypse, and I will watch it just as kiddie as a Lego Batman movie. So I enjoyed it thoroughly, and that's my top 3 favorite games. I don't care how baby some of them was and how simple they are, but that's my favorite 3.
Nice. That's a good top 3. I appreciate some of the picks you got there.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah. Yaron, what about you, man? I want to hear about what you got. Top 1, top 2, what you got?
I'll make mine quick. I'll make it easy, and I'll make it just more like an honorable mentions for you guys. But these are some games that for me, because I'm definitely from a different generation of video games. I mean, damn, I remember playing Ataris and like yeah, I'm an old school gamer, man. Like I'm not as old school as like Pong, because I remember seeing that, but I wasn't born in that era because I was like late 70s,
Yeah.
I was born in 81, so I'm 39 years old. So for me, my biggest games, I mean, I'm gonna get right to it. There's a game back in 2003 I absolutely loved. It was Judge Dredd.
Oh my god, yeah.
And this was a PC game. It was an amazing game. I think they may have had it for Xbox, the first Xbox. Great video game, great gameplay. Absolutely loved it. It was futuristic as hell. I mean, you can see the graphics even for back then was still pretty damn good. To me, this kind of built what Star Wars games are doing now.
Interesting.
It was definitely like, if you like that futuristic element, it had a very cyberpunk feel to it back then. But it was great. Like you can walk into a nightclub, you can walk into some pretty cool areas, just kill up some thugs. It was awesome. I mean, it's a fun game. It's messed up, but I love Judge Dredd. I mean, I've always loved that comic book series. I love the movies. I'm a fan of Judge Dredd. I mean, if you follow the whole 2000 AD, or it was just that era of comics is out there. It's crazy. Yeah. So I mean, definitely a big fan of that one. The other games that I like, and one I know that I spoke to Addy, you're a big fan of this one as well. But the X-Men Origins game, there's the actual image, but of the cover, Origins Wolverine. But let's take you back to that. That's Wolverine right there. Like I think he's just, from what I heard, this was the Blob, right? He was just fighting him there.
Yeah.
What I loved about this game personally, and this is one here with Wolvie as well, the game design was just incredible. Like it was absolutely like breathtaking, and I felt that you felt like you were Wolverine for finally in a game. You really felt like he was him. I mean, Addy, what did you like about that one?
Oh man, for sure. You nailed it on the head there when you said you truly get to feel like Wolverine. The Arkham series for Batman is this for Wolverine. Like the movie games usually get dismissed as like a crappy kind of like, okay, they made it just because of the movie, so they want to capitalize on the money. But this game was so good. I'm so happy you mentioned it because seriously, like it slipped my mind, but it is probably one of my favorites up there. Not even just superhero games. It was super. The thing I loved about it, it was super violent and like visceral and like berserk, like as in Wolverine fashion. Like it was just everything Wolverine. It was so good. Like the kills in the game, the combat system in the game. There was even some cool Easter eggs I remember when you like search the levels and stuff. Really cool game, really great pick.
Yeah, so I mean, no, and I agree with you. I think it was great. A game I just, overall fun game. There's a lot of other great comic book games out there as well. And my last one personally, I have to mention it's more recent actually, and to me it did amazing. Was SpiderMan. I mean, I think this.
Oh my god, yeah.
An absolutely incredible game that was released on PS4. It was on Xbox as well. Xbox not 360. The Xbox One. I mean, this is a great game, great storyline. I mean, what I loved about this game is that when you saw this, and Joey, you were saying earlier about how unreal some of these games look. This was a game when you saw the previews on it from E3, it just looked. Everyone was like, "Wow, this feels like Arkham Knight, but as Spider-Man." I mean, it's exactly. Addy, I think I had a conversation with you about this. Like,
man. Oh man! At first, okay, to be honest, this one was it was a Sony exclusive, so it was only on PS4, and I was an Xbox guy to the beginning. So when I heard this was coming out for PS4, I was like, "Oh my god!" So I literally purchased the Spider-Man edition PS4. You can't really see it here, but it's there, the PS4 Pro. This is how much I was excited for this game because I'm a big Spider-Man guy, as you could tell from one of my takes, and when it literally made me purchase the PS4 Pro. And it was like everything I've ever wished.
They released it on
a Spider-Man game,
right?
No. It's Sony. It's Sony only.
Don't break his heart like that. Don't break his heart.
I know. I wish
that they released it on Xbox as well, but damn.
No, Sony is holding a vice grip on Spider-Man license, man. Like seriously, even for the Avengers game we're going to talk about, he's coming out as a DLC character. Only on PS4, which made me mad, and actually a lot of other fans mad, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I'm really happy because this is now the golden standard for superhero games. Anything below this is not even like worth being made at this point. Like Arkham, Spider-Man, and even Avengers. Like this and I'm so happy.
My daughter about an hour or two ago was like, "Daddy, I want to play the PS4. I want to play Spider-Man." Like that's the first game she goes to. My daughter plays, she's 8 years old right now, and she loves playing Spider-Man. She kicks ass in the game. Like she's really good. I'm like,
so good. Just swinging around the city.
Yeah.
So satisfying. So satisfying.
Yeah, you know what? Let me just say with this game, when it came out, I mean, of course I saw the trailers and stuff, but I'm always very skeptical about like gaming trailers because I'm like, it's not going to look like that, when you're actually playing it. And it might not even feel like that when you're playing it. But this one, just webbing around the whole city is absolutely insane. Okay. Sure. Like you really do feel like Spider-Man. The second thing is the missions were so easy to figure out where they were because of like that red beam that comes on, right? So you didn't really have to look for trouble because it was right there. But honestly, even the costumes, the anatomy of the characters was amazing. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to let you know about was there was actually a comic book that was almost congruent when this came out, which was called Intro to the Spider-Verse. And it was also around the same time that the hype of the Spider-Verse movie was really, really big.
Well, they called it as a series, I think, Gamerverse once they
Gamerverse,
yeah, that was under the new, and they had the same costume, same storyline. I mean, everyone looked exactly the same from the video game.
It was amazing.
Yeah, no. Was that Mr. Negative guy? Was he created for the game and then put into the comics, or was he? He was a thing before.
He's a character way before, And
oh snap! I didn't know that. Damn, I'm laughing.
Way before, and the thing is, what I personally loved about not just this Spider-Man, but there's like I remember that actually my favorite prior to this was Spider-Man 3. 2 and 3, they had 2 was pretty good, but Spider-Man 3, the one where like the movie game, which was like everyone remembers the Venom movie, which is Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah,
kind of sucked, but whatever. The game was better than the movie though. The game was incredible.
Really?
The game was sick. The game was sick. I agree.
And the thing is, like, even when they came out with the amazing Spider-Man game, it kind of sucked again. Exactly. I love that face, Addy, because that's exactly what I felt. But Spider-Man, this game, actually, I felt finally they went back to what Spider-Man 3 did, which it felt like when you jumped off the Empire State Building, you felt like you were going to die. And that was like an amazing, and they finally brought it back to that. When I played it in Amazing Spider-Man 1, I was like, this sucks. I don't feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm just flying.
I want to. That's your pedestal of the game. I want to.
I want to get as close as I can.
You know what I mean? So I mean,
dude, that's dangerous for VR, man.
No, I'm telling you, that game was the one thing I love about this, and this game did it finally well. It scares the living daylights out of you because it feels like when you're jumping, you feel like you're in midair. Definitely, that's one thing that I remember experiencing in the third one the most, because you can get up to heights there that were just incredible, and I felt like they brought it back with this game. So to me, this is probably my number one game right now. Been for the last little while. I'm loving it. So for sure, but yeah, I mean, one thing I mean, you mentioned, I know. Joey, you mentioned Avengers is coming out, or sorry, just came out.
Right? It's already out. It's already out.
So I mean,
just this past weekend, and damn, look at the crew right there, and Kamala Khan up in the cut. I was surprised that they made her such a big role in this game, because prior to this, to be honest, I haven't really. I knew of the character, but I didn't really read her stuff. I didn't know too much about her, and this game is honestly a good chance to get to know a bit more about her and play as her as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, and she's right there. I mean, that's Black Widow right next to her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in just a little synopsis of the game here, the game starts on A Day, which is like the celebration of the Avengers opening up a headquarters in San Fran, and they have a new helicarrier called the Chimera, which is powered by the Terrigen crystals, which I believe are something that's from the comics. Am I right with that?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So the Terrigen is actually it's a fog. And if you guys read any of the Inhuman stuff, that's basically what makes someone an Inhuman. And wow, that was really hard to say, an Inhuman. And Miss Marvel, which is Kamala Khan, is an Inhuman, and you can see her powers just right over there.
Yeah, and I honestly learned that just by playing the game, like in the very opening of it, like through the intro mission. Like it was really, really cool how they did it. And honestly, it did get a lot of flack in the beginning because of the beta. When it first came out, not a lot of people really liked it. They kind of judged it off the jump without really recognizing that it's a beta, you know?
But it's a beta.
It's early stages, right? So there was a lot of flack and like kind of criticism towards it surrounding it, but you know what? As a fan and like getting my hands on the game, I have nothing but love for it. I played it a bunch so far. I'm excited. Probably after this episode, I'm going to jump back into it, play it some more. The combat is really satisfying. And Joey, I know you were saying earlier, man, like when you were playing Ultimate Alliance, I wish there was something that gave a more in-depth view and really put me into the character. Avengers is that. Like it's only past you could know. You had the foresight. But playing it is just, it's so fun. The combat is so satisfying. You're able to like whip Thor's hammer at somebody and throw Cap's shield. There's like the counter system. Everybody has their own abilities and stuff like that. And a really cool thing about it is they're adding a lot of DLC characters. So we got like Black Panther coming out as DLC. Ant-Man is supposed to be there. Marvel, which I think is like the original Captain Marvel or something like that. Is that right?
Well, Captain Marvel. Yeah. So Marvel was like the guy that was, before Captain Marvel, or when she became Miss Marvel. So
technically he was a Captain Marvel as well at one point. So I mean, it's they're definitely doing it right if they're doing that. I mean, how does the game play, Addy? Does it play like what would you say is the most similar game that you can think of that plays like it?
Honestly, if you guys played God of War on PS4, it really gave me some God of War vibes. I know God of War is like the holy grail of PS4 games, but it has that same like over-the-shoulder look. And when you're throwing Thor's hammer, it literally feels like you're throwing Kratos' axe. Like there's some things that were kind of parallel with it, but it's so fun, so satisfying. You collect, there's like different hidden collectibles in the game where you pick up comics, covers and stuff like that, which is like a classic trope in comic book games.
Yeah, I saw
and then
that.
you get there's a whole online aspect to it as well, which is really cool. So you can jump in with your buddies and play the campaign, as well as there's like a whole after campaign segment of the game where there's specific missions and you can level up one hero that you like, unlock a bunch of outfits. So it's really cool. And I feel like if you are a fan of even not even just the fans of the comics, but fans of like that style of like the beat 'em up gameplay, the God of War style gameplay, I feel like honestly, give it a try. Don't listen to the reviews. Don't listen to what everybody's saying about it. It did get a lot of good reviews. Some of them were mixed, of course, but definitely 100%. I recommend you check this out because it is worth it.
Sure. No, I was not planning on getting a system, man. And then you messaged me with this game, and I'm like, damn it, Addy! Like, I wasn't planning on this.
Come to the dark side. Yeah. I know.
Does it play like? Is it play more like a an open world, or is it more like a hack and slash?
So it is more linear. When you're in a specific mission, it's not like you're in New York City and you get to roam around. As far as I've played so far, basically it has like a world map at the board console that you're in, and you get to choose a different region, a different area, and then you do missions based off that. Which honestly I don't mind. It's kind of returning to that more classic style because I feel like every game nowadays is open world, so it was kind of a breath of fresh air in a way, to be honest.
I like that better because open world kind of makes me a little bit nervous because I'm like, one, I'm not going to say that it feels like I'm not being efficient with my time. It's probably just because I suck at video games when it's free, like when it's just like that, because there's too many choices, you know, like you just got to give me that one linear choice. And like, I want to follow the story and all that kind of stuff.
Sometimes it takes too long to figure where things are.
God, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's,
for sure.
It sounds almost like he probably even has some similarities to like Arkham Asylum, right? In that sense, where you're kind of following a map and you're
And I feel like this is like the Avengers style of that Arkham. You know how Avengers is like more, I would say, like compared to Batman, the more bright and like superhero-y sort of vibe instead of that dark crime Batman vibe. This is like the stark contrast to it. Where you get to play as the Avengers and a host of other characters when they come out. So I'm really excited to play more of it, and when the DLC drops, I'm going to be on that.
You're gonna message me again when that happens, and be like, "God damn, Hattie!"
Yeah, you gotta get the DLC now, man. You gotta go now with games. But actually, you know what? For good thing about Avengers, it's free DLC. So good job, Square Enix, for making that a thing. Yeah.
Square Enix is amazing.
Big publishers. If you guys don't know, watching Final Fantasy and like Octopath as a new game, just to name a couple ones. But yeah, Square Enix is a heavy hitter in the gaming industry. But since we're talking about video game based on comic books, I had a really interesting question for you guys. As fans of the characters that you grew up reading and you really appreciate them and like hold them dear to your heart. How do you say their depiction in movies and video games comes across when you're compared to reading the book? Like for an example, I'll give you Thor, for example, in the game, in the Avengers game. I found him to be kind of more lax and a bit more jokey. In like he still has that like godlike demeanor about him. Yeah. But I feel like after Guardians came out in the cinematic universe and then Ragnarok came out, I feel like they kind of tried to make Thor a bit more of a funny guy. I don't know if you guys got that as well, but he definitely comes across like that in the game a bit. Is he like that in the comics? Is that something that was his
now
style?
He is, and that's the thing. He wasn't always like that. He was like, if you look at the old Thor books, he was more serious, right? I think the Avengers made him more comical over the years, and a lot of the movies, the shows, I mean, even the cartoons. I mean, when they came out with like Avengers,
Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yeah, he was a lot more gimmicky and fun. I think that's where it changed, right, Joey? I mean,
I think that Thor, because of the of Ragnarok, Ragnarok is not supposed to be a comedy, guys. I want people to know that in the comic books, this is the time that he loses everybody and everything.
Yeah, Asgard is burning, man.
And I don't know if you guys have ever read like World War Hulk, but like it's not a pretty story. There's nothing comedic about it.
I still want to see Maestro in a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole other chapter, right? But
oh my god, I don't know how it's gonna come about, but like Thor was like I didn't read as much Thor when I was younger because of the reason why, because he was like a little bit hard to read because of his language, and it wasn't really so much as he was serious, but one, he was not that comedic, but because of the fact that he spoke in a certain way, there was nothing funny about it. But now, because of Ragnarok, I think that the success of that movie being a comedy made him the way that he is.
Yeah, he was definitely a fantasy based character.
Yeah.
And for me personally, like I definitely think that they depict characters in a unique way, definitely in a more original way sometimes. I'm a big fan of Wolverine. To me, I think they depict him pretty well in most video games when they come out with him. Even the Turtles, even like Batman, like to me, I think everyone's got their own kind of flavor, and that's what I love about the way we can experience the characters we love in so many different facets, right? Like, I mean, whether it's a video game, a movie, a comic book, there's so many different artistic interpretations that, like, when you finally see them, and that's why they have these, like, you know, these infinite earths of different characters and different versions of. I love to see the new spin each time. I love it. I love the fact that everyone has a different spin, a different way to show the characters. You know, I like to see that there's a Daredevil with you know, an African American Kingpin, because I mean, you don't see that. And to me, he played the best Kingpin. Sorry, I'm saying Ving Rhames. No, was it? I'm confusing with someone. Michael Clark Duncan. He did a great job with that. So I mean, in a movie, right, and in a video game, to me, I think that, like, even though these voice actors, they do a great job. They do an amazing job with these, you know, these types of characters. So I mean, it comes out depending on how you look at it, right? It comes out in different ways, whether it's stylistically, the way they draw the characters, or whether it's just the way that the voice actor plays them as well. I mean, there's so much to it. I think you got to look at the nitty gritty of it all. But
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Damn, yeah, that's some really good insight there. I'm glad I have you guys here today. I think one final question to kind of wrap it up, a more open-ended, fun type of question that I got for you guys is, if you were to see one of your favorite comic book like arcs or stories from that you've read before or that you know of, translated into a video game, what would you choose? I know you got a whole vast array, but you maybe think about it while I say mine. I feel like Secret Wars would be a fun one to do in a video game, because you already got that kind of like battle style with the story arc and stuff like that. And I feel like that would be an interesting game to play at least. What do you guys think? Do you have any off the top that maybe you would like, oh, this will translate into a cool video game? Or
ladies first.
Me first? Okay.
Ladies first.
I was the only lady in the team so far. So, but you know what? I will tell you that I don't know if it's going to translate so well in the game. I don't know how to make it translate well, but I really liked like the Green Lantern stuff, you know. And when Darkest Night came out, and all of a sudden, all of these other spectrums of, like, you know, the Indigo tribe and like all the other rings and Necron, and bringing everybody back to life. Like, how sick would that be if that was a game? You know?
Yo, that's true. I agree. That actually would be a sick game. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, because I mean, the Green Lantern game wasn't a great game, so that would be a good game.
Yeah, I know. It was just held hands with the movie, man. Damn, like, I don't know.
It's not good.
Yeah, literally.
But what I did want to mention as well, and I did forget, but I want people to know this, but about the Avengers game, you're Kamala Khan for a good portion of the story. Now, Addy, you said that you didn't know that much about Kamala Khan at all. And
no, sir.
My God, 2014, when that book came out, when it's a volume 1 now, but the first 5 issues of Miss Marvel, this was a great idea for Avengers 2020 game, to have someone who is new to the world, and she's a millennial kid, you know what I mean? Who better to really showcase this whole universe, but to people who are millennials. You know what I mean? And people who are millennials who come from immigrant families like us, you know? And Kamala Khan, my God, could I ever relate to a superhero? One, super religious parents. I'm not an Inhuman, so that doesn't count. She's a daddy's girl. obviously, that's me. And she is not afraid of anything, you know? And so when she goes through these like trials and tribulations in the Avengers game, she's the best person to be in it. And I encourage you guys to honestly just pick up that volume 1 of Miss Marvel after you play this game, and you're going to know so much more about her and you're going to love her even more.
For sure.
Damn, I think I might do that. Wow, interesting. Yeah, you just sold me. You just sold me right there.
For me personally, I mean, I have to say, I think that the two storylines I'd love to see. Number one, I'd love to see a Wolverine versus Hulk. I think that would be a huge.
My God, that's a throwback. Yeah,
that would be a story that would just. I mean, I want to see that in the cinemas as well. But I think as a video game, it'd be awesome to fight the Hulk or to fight Wolverine as the Hulk, whichever way, in like a level. You know, it doesn't have to be the entire game.
Yeah.
At least in a level or chapter of a game would be awesome.
Yeah.
And the one game I think would be a great. I know it's funny because I saw a picture this week of someone putting up 4 different video games that, like, if you could have this kind of Marvel video game, what would it be? But I think having a Hulk, my bad, a Wolverine versus Punisher game would be an awesome video game.
Punisher, yeah.
They're both very gritty characters, and I feel like you can have a very unique dark game. They definitely have a mini series that came out years ago. Wolverine, I think it was Wolverine and Punisher, but it was more of a versus, definitely, and they kind of had to team up in certain parts, but there's a lot of hate between the two of them because they're both like just dark in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can play out a great story with a great team up where maybe, I mean, you can kind of play both characters one way or another. In some chapters you play Wolverine, and other chapters you play the Punisher. But I think it could be a very cool kind of just dark, gritty game. And instead of making it a big save the world type of game, I'd rather it be like a mystery, almost like something they have to solve together to help, help the world maybe eventually. But it's more of a hidden, unique story. And I feel like Marvel should start going a darker route with video games sometimes, and they haven't yet, but at least not that I know of. So I mean, yeah, it would be cool to see something a bit different, right? So
that's honestly really cool. Punisher, a game where Punisher's in the forefront of it. That's honestly a really good. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's a good recommendation. Like you even have like some shooting type third person or first person shooting type levels, which I feel like would be really cool. So that's definitely a good suggestion. 2 really great suggestions. Damn.
Yeah. You know what? It would be, because we talked about Ultimate Spider-Man, like the PS2 game that you really liked. I think now is a pretty good time to start bringing something like that back because Venom is just so big. After the Tom Hardy movie, it's just really taken off. So like, I think that would be a really good time to maybe start having another Venom game.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Honestly, we got to see. I feel like Avengers now will open up the realm for more like, okay, this is you can bring characters like Kamala Khan out into a game and have it be a mainstream game, I feel like this will be the beginning. We'll start to see a lot of games in the same vein. Hopefully this will bring more unique characters out, like taking characters like Marvel and stuff like that and putting them as DLC in these games where you're having like characters like Hulk and Iron Man and Thor that you know and you're comfortable with, but like sneaking in some guys that are from more farther reaches in the Marvel universe. I think is a really good thing for not only comic books but for games in general. So that's definitely a good point.
And you know what? And my last thing as well is that I know that you mentioned, maybe bringing in characters that are not so well known and are just new characters. Guys, hear me out on this. This is the time to start maybe thinking about making a Superman game that actually works, that you're not just jumping through.
Superman, you're my boy. I know. Damn. God. Superman Returns was I just had to like it. Like I forced myself to like it. I played it so much. And then the final boss was a tornado. So damn, Superman definitely. I think it's just hard to master that his level of power in a game where you're just running around and beating people up,
They can do it with Batman as well. And I even feel like with Batman games and with Superman games, specifically those two, I think what would be really cool, especially now that they're doing things open world and all that, I think you can do it in an open world game. But why not play Superman as Clark Kent? Or why not play Batman as Bruce Wayne? at certain parts of the game. Why do they have to be in costume? The whole point of these characters was that they had other identities as well. I'd love to be a Batman and plays Bruce Wayne, and actually not use his ability sometimes to try and investigate something. He's a detective, right? So
we got a small sliver.
It would even be better if you did a Batman, like the Gaslight Batman in video games. Like, there's so many possibilities, guys. There's so many possibilities.
And that's the thing. I just wish they thought a little bit beyond the box, like out of the box as well. I would definitely agree with you guys on that.
Yaron, definitely you're right there. We got a small sliver of that. I think it was in Arkham City in the beginning when you're cuffed up as Bruce Wayne and you're stumbling. The criminals are ready to beat you up, but you're like being pushed along and like stumbling around. But while you're stumbling, you're like doing these crazy like combat moves, but making it look like you're just like blindly falling into all this like crazy combat to defeat the criminals as Bruce Wayne. Like in the very beginning, I don't know if you remember that. It was just like a quick intro piece, but I feel like that would be something to expand upon for sure. That's really interesting.
For sure. Well, I do want to say though, we're completely past our time as usual. I think it's like our second longest episode on Heroes Manufactured Live, but
I know it's so easy to talk to you guys. I'm so happy that you're able to join me here on an amazing episode of Game Changers, and we got to talk about reminisce and talk about some awesome games that definitely took me on a trip down memory lane, and I know some of our audience would have enjoyed as well. And so what social medias can you guys reach for those asking at home? What social medias can we reach you guys on? Joey, you got a social to throw out there that some people can follow you at?
Absolutely. I mean, guys, follow Heroes Manufactured everywhere, over at YouTube, over at Facebook, and you can follow every single one of our shows. But if you want to follow me, because I do promote us in my own personal stuff, then you can follow me on Instagram at the Captain Canary.
Right there, guys, right there for sure. And if you scroll down just below, you'll see the Heroes Manufactured link. You guys can find me there as well. So by all means, reach out to us anytime. Thanks, Addie, for having us on your show today. I'm happy to be here. Joey, thanks for you coming on board as well today. And thank you guys for being part of Game Changers. It's awesome.
Yes, for sure. So glad. I can't wait to make another episode soon for you guys. Glad you're able to join us here. And we got some fresh new content coming our way soon. So stay tuned. Heroes Manufactured. Click subscribe. Hit the notification button. And we got some amazing content for you guys. So take it easy. Have a great time. And we'll all see you soon.
Take care, guys.
Dude. Bye.
Bye.